Receive the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 19th of June 2017. It has been laid on the table for half an hour before this meeting.
Okay.
Do I have your agreement?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Emma, do we have apologies for absence?
I don't have any apologies, but it looks like Councillor Byam hasn't been able to make it.
I know that there's a lot of traffic coming into Godalming. Yes. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest?
None received.
No. Thank you very much. And questions? Do we have any questions?
None received.
Thank you. There are no items to consider under the Licensing Act of 2003, and we move on to item number 6, Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Policy Review. And you have before you pages 5 to 86. The policy, and it does come with a recommendation that the Licensing and Regulatory Committee approve the draft changes to the taxi and private hire taxi policy for public consultation over a 6-week period. So I would like to invite everyone's contribution regarding the policy and the changes. Could I ask, do you have any comments?
No, just to give a brief outline, that
Yes.
two of the main changes are for the changes to our criminal convictions policy and to taxi driving qualification for CSE, child sex exploitation.
Exploitation.
Yes.
Yes, I stumble over that word.
This is something we're working with the whole of Surrey so we've got consistency throughout on both policies,
Yes.
so we're not the weaker link, or there's no weak link in the Surrey area.
Yes.
The other changes are just purely Waverley only, which window tinting, using a mobile phone, a few other small and usual typos that we've discovered.
Phones. Thank you.
I'm saying the convictions policy, rather than you trying to look at the old one and the new one, it's a lot stricter than our current one. For example, on page 60, the last point, 6.2 at the bottom, these are for 10 years, should pass before we should consider grant of a licence. The first two we already have as 10 years. The fourth one down, robbery, we have 5 years, and grievous bodily harm we have as 5 years, so it's a lot stricter there. With possession of firearm, violent disorder, resisting arrest, common assault, affray and harassment, we have 3 years, and so now it will be 10 years if we take on the policy.
That's it at the moment, is
Well,
it?
they're the main, it's throughout, it's just a lot
Yes.
stricter, and again, it's the consistency throughout the whole of
Yes.
Surrey, so people don't get refused at one place and then turn up on our doorstep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Could I ask anyone that has any questions?
Chairman, my
comments?
view is that the matter of consistency is all important.
Yes.
And we have seen things in the past where there have been different standards applied, and it has been not confusing at the very least. But we've seen, as you know, we've seen a driver licensed by Transport for London after we revoked his licence, and he was backed up by the magistrate. So consistency throughout, I think, is very important.
Could I ask a question with regard, and we've had a number of issues where our drivers have got a licence from Surrey County Council to transport children to school or perhaps to home. And we have found it difficult, because the evidence has come to us third hand, to actually take what we thought was appropriate action to support Surrey County Council. That hasn't always been possible for us. Are we supportive of Surrey County Council when it takes actions with regard to this particular activity?
Well, when they come to our attention, obviously we all bring them to committee if they've had their licence. We vote. We are. I believe they're part of this policy as well.
Yes.
They're taking this into account.
Right.
But we can't. Again, if we're aware of it, we will pass it on to you. Whether you need more and what restricts you, I don't know in taking further action.
Right.
Whether it's a legal precedence, but they do work under different criteria as far as the restrictions as the one you've got in front of you today. I think you've got one in front of you
Yes.
today that
It seemed
they look at
pertinent.
it from different angles to what we do, and so they do have separate regulations. But yeah, we're always supportive of them.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Colleagues, any other questions? Issues? I mean, I looked through our policy with regard to issuing points against the Waverley licence, and on a personal level, which I know was not supported by one of the other councillors, I felt that we should be reconsidering those, and personally I felt perhaps our number of points should be going up rather than going down. So has anybody else considered?
I think the points for using a mobile phone should definitely go up.
I absolutely agree.
So I would be perfectly happy for us to say it's immediate revocation.
Yeah, well, I would.
Yeah.
It's one of, well, revocation wasn't one of the, but we wanted you to consider the penalty points we used the most, because it's changed in law now, and other
Yes.
points were issued before.
Yeah.
There's also one I haven't put in the report that come up recently, was plying for hire. It's talking about plying for hire by a private hire driver. Whether we should just call that plying for hire, I don't know the legal side of it, because we've had a driver recently that was a hackney who's allowed to ply for hire. But he was applying for hire in Guildford, and he got found guilty at magistrate's court, applying for hire. So our point system doesn't deal with that. So if we took away the private hire and just called it applying for hire, was that set amount of points it might be worth.
Yeah.
Through you, Chairman, so a Waverley driver can apply for hire out of our...
No, that's why you got the point.
okay,
That's why.
right, yep. Thank you.
I mean, I just saw one here, number 11, on the penalty points scheme. 12 points for failure to carry an assistance dog. And that in itself is fine, because I recognise assistance dogs, the value to the person concerned. But if we compare that with other numbers, I think perhaps that's quite excessive, because if you get 12 points, you come straight to committee.
That is an offence now, and it's been made offence under the Disabilities Act, and so
Right.
it is quite a strict one, and that's why that one comes to
Okay.
committee, so you could revoke the licence if you felt.
Yeah. Right.
Madam Chairman, can I just point out that penalty point number 42 is a big catch-all, because there's unsatisfactory behaviour or conduct of driver, and that lists 1 to 12 points.
Yes.
So,
Right.
that
have anything else?
We can, that's the only thing that's all,
quite
isn't
a
it?
lot of circumstances.
Yes. I mean, I've been through this, and I'm sure my colleagues have as well.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate for me to actually just email you to say my concerns on this? Or are you
Oh, what, to
seeking?
change?
Yes.
Well, we don't have, it has to be consulted on as far
Yes.
as the policy is concerned, so we need to go in front of the committee for you to agree that. So I suppose you could discuss it now.
Chairman, you would need to do it now.
Yes.
Yes.
So that we can
Right.
go out and then consult on what it is that you're proposing to change to the
Okay.
policy.
But could I just mention one point, that this is for minor offences, the law and all the other regulations should cover the major, more serious things if people have had points or been done for speeding, etc. So this is meant to be for misdemeanours that build up, that shows the character of the person
Right.
regularly, so then they come to committee. It's not there to just revoke the licence.
Can I say, Joe, the 42 that you were talking about, I quite like that varying one, because if somebody comes to us with something and it has a specific amount of points which is going to take them over the top, but we don't want them, we could use that one to bring in, if it was 6 points or something, and actually if he had 5 he could keep it, but we could work it round on that one to give him 5 points, so that actually I say he, sorry, they, can keep their licence at the time.
All the other points, they are the actual maximum points.
Yeah.
Their
So
discretion.
you can use discretion in
Right, yeah,
to
okay.
kind of give them slightly less points depending on the circumstances.
I have a point, if I may raise.
Yes.
I think we were discussing the length of term of the points awarded that we had a difficulty with, how long they would exist for, how they're to build up to present a picture of the driver, obviously. But are they for life?
No, they're for 3 years. We try to work on the same lines that people are used to with their own driving licence, the DVLA. They stay on your licence for 3 years. They're valid for 3 years, and then they come off.
Then they would be
So they
removed
come off,
automatically.
Yeah.
I see. So that wouldn't be an out record anyway. But when after a 3-year period, they would come as a blank.
Well, they might do,
With a
because
new set.
we can consider, or you can consider, so if it was relevant to what they've come in for you, it might be that they've had these points in the past, they're not valid at the moment, because they've been, but it shows their history of.
Particularly if it's an ongoing problem,
Yeah.
a serious ongoing problem. Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry I was late. The police and the fire service seem to be playing games, I think.
No, it's an
I don't
accident.
think, was it an accident? It was an accident, okay. The bollards still seem to be struck too far across the road. It could have been two-way traffic, but that's up to them, so I do apologise for that. 2 points. Reading through, on page 61, we may have jumped through things at various times. Possession of indecent photographs depicting child pornography. There are other things there, but why just child pornography? Because
Could you, which point is that, sorry?
well, it's on page 61.
Yes.
Sexual indecency offences.
8.1.
Right.
Bullet point.
Down the list of the things there. Why just child pornography?
I don't think it's just child, it's a catch-all, but rather than, you can't list every offence, but maybe that's one of the more relevant ones that we've come across. It certainly is for Waverley, we have come across that one. I don't know whether it's the same with all the councils, so maybe they've highlighted that one specifically, but it's the main paragraph are saying they're all serious, but they just don't list every single one.
Well, that's like, but are you saying that possession of indecent photographs is a crime?
Of indecent photos, a crime, yeah, as far as I'm aware it is.
Well, what about all
What
the
about
pickup shops up in the
I was
West
going
End
to
that
say
say,
licensed adult video
Oh.
things, adult ones are,
what is
We
the
like
definition
to-
of indecent?
Yeah,
It's what people are watching.
yeah. But with children it is illegal.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's why it's
children.
here.
Yeah,
But adult
that is why I
movies and
think it's
stuff,
got to be depicting child
I would
pornography.
agree with you, Sam. Yeah.
Second, I don't know if it's relevant to this particular argument. We were so much on the news about Uber and them losing their licence in London. Is there something, have you already brought that subject up this
No,
morning?
we haven't, but I have asked if we could have some notification, because I don't totally understand.
Exactly that, that's the problem.
And I
don't
would like
understand
to
where we stand with that.
I believe we don't have any Uber drivers within Waverley, although I know that Uber are coming into the borough, obviously. from outside. So I would like to know some more, and I think we're going to receive that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other?
If we're finished on the points, let us come to window tinting.
Yes.
I really can't think of any good reason why a taxi driver should want his rear windows to be tinted more than 70 or less than 70% light. I just can't think there's a good reason. I can think of good reasons why they shouldn't be tinted.
I think
It smacks of secrecy and concealment.
We need to look in.
I think part of the issue is I understand what you're saying, but I think that's a lot of the cars manufactured now
Yes.
are 70%. You have to.
Well, 70% is okay, because I was in a car yesterday where we were watching things through from the car, and it was nothing like that. It was nothing indecent, unless you think a ploughing competition is indecent. But the sun was pretty low in the sky beginning in the morning, and without the tinted windows, it would have been difficult because the sun would have been right in our eyes. So I can see that having a tint that reduces the glare from the sun should be acceptable. But if it actually conceals who is in the back completely to outsiders, I think there's something deeply suspicious about that.
I think Tessa went out to Slidefield Garage,
Yes.
to where there's a number of manufacturers.
Yes.
A lot of these cars on the list aren't necessarily ones we have, but they were as manufactured as the percentages of the rear of the thing.
It was actually quite hard to find a new vehicle that would pass our policy.
Really?
And talking to the sales guys, they just reiterated that the manufacturer, because there's no legislation apart from governing the windscreens and the two front windows, there's no legislation governing the rear windows. The manufacturers think that customers like the privacy aspect, they like the UV rays not coming in, they like the comfort of the sun not making them hot, and the security of being able to leave something on the back seat. So because the manufacturers aren't restricted, they are doing what they can to
sell the vehicle.
yeah. So it could be quite hard.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
may severely restrict the type of and make and model of the type of taxis that we'll be able to register if we stick with the 70%.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yep, and I bought a new car not that long ago, and to have clear rear windows was an optional extra, which I would have to pay extra for. They come as standard tinted rear windows. They're lovely.
Yeah, well, if we're talking about safety of passengers against a slight extra cost for the driver, I'm afraid that the safety trumps cost.
You
I
specify.
think that was the point I was going to make, Chairman, actually, in that there's a difference between just buying a car for personal use and actually you as a
But a
committee
taxi.
need to consider that actually this is being used as a taxi. And there may be that there's a distinction that you want to make between a private hire, where we know that some of them have plate exemptions, for example. You might like to make a distinction between that kind of executive vehicle and a hackney carriage that's being applied for hire, where you would wish to have clearer visibility in the back windows.
That's a good point.
It is.
I agree with that.
Page 85, running me through the chairman, they seem to have decided to go for 70%.
I think most of the councils were once upon the same as ours.
Same as ours.
I think it was obviously when it first started.
Is that they're allowed
But
time for
people
drivers to
have-
make other arrangements?
Some people have changed. One I did notice was that's recently being reviewed was the Rotherham one, because of all the CSE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their policy is still 70%, slightly worded differently to ours, but basically the same wording. And the only point I take from that is because it was reviewed recently. Whether they reviewed that part, I don't know, but
I have noted, Councillor Byrne, could I just ask our legal advice? How would we stand if we actually reduce it so that we say in terms of safety for our passengers, we would require the glass not to be tinted or tinted to a lesser degree?
it's an option, but the baseline will always have to be the vehicle use regulations, so to speak. So
Yeah.
you can't go beyond what the law ordinarily allows. So you can increase or decrease as you see fit, but the baseline will always be the vehicle use regulations. So it is a matter for you. It's just whether or not you feel by benchmarking and seeing what's happening with your neighbours, you might see that as a suitable starting point. I think the key reason why it's before you is because there have been a few issues with this.
Yeah.
There needs to be clarity and consistency. Forgive the pun into clarity, obviously we're tinting. But it is a matter for you. As long as the baseline of what the law says actually can happen, you're fine. And we can advise you as to what that position is. But essentially you have before you what your neighbours do, and to help clarify what is essentially a difficult issue, especially given, as what Councillor's correctly identified, the new vehicles now being produced, it may come at cost to the trade, and this is a key point I think the trade are making. But again, as correctly identified, safety is an overriding factor that you should also bear in mind. It's not for me to say, it's a matter for your better judgment, knowing your neighbours, knowing perhaps what works good for Waverley, but the baseline is as long as you comply with the vehicle use regulations, you cannot be criticised.
Thank you for that. Councillor Byrne.
The one thing that hasn't been brought up with this one is safety with regard to night driving and headlights into your mirror. I don't know whether that is, having tinting improves the situation, obviously, in stopping the light coming in, as to whether that is a consideration or whether our mirrors cope with that.
The mirrors are.
In terms of, I think now they're pretty well automatic actually.
Yeah. I must admit, there's one particular area on my journey over here, I'm wanting to turn left, but the majority of people are waiting to turn right, and it's very difficult for them to get into that road. And with these vehicles with tinted glass, it's very difficult for me to see what is coming.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, you've got double windows you're looking through.
Yes. So that's just a point to consider.
Well, I would, excuse me, Chairman,
Yes,
I would
of course.
consider these are taxes. There is a cost in running taxes that they must take onto their assets. And we could not specify clearer if necessary. Other councils not only proposing the colour tints, but they're also proposing the type of vehicles they can use on the road. So it's something that we'll have to bite the cherry for and put our foot down somewhere, I think, and say, well, Waverley looks upon this as unnecessary. And they'll have to order.
I think it's important in a queue of traffic or somewhere that passers-by can see in the back of a taxi clearly.
Could I take perhaps your views on this? Is everybody in agreement with that we continue with the policy that we would like to, well, we require our drivers to have a vehicle with clear glass?
Well,
70%.
up 70%.
Sorry.
70%.
Yes.
Yes. Are you happy for us to reword it? Because the wording is not quite clear.
That's great.
Agreed.
Yes.
We would also need you to consider the existing vehicles out there, because we believe there are some out there that aren't reaching our standard.
Okay. Remind me, please, if you would. I'm sorry. How long is there a period of time now where the vehicles have to be replaced when they get to a certain age?
No.
I just thought that we'd actually rescinded that.
That says the running meets have got some time, obviously, because it says this will allow time for the drivers to make other arrangements.
It's an annual license.
Right. So it's obviously all new cars that we are going to license must adhere to this policy.
And the existing ones to get grandfather rights and such.
Sorry, grandfather rights?
Yeah, it's just they stay as they.
They can keep as they are.
Keep as they are.
Right, I thought so. Just
Until the law tells us they can't.
Do I take it we're all comfortable with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Are there any other issues that came up with regard to the policy?
Chairman, with paragraph 31, you've mentioned briefly about using mobile phone or
Oh,
driving.
yes,
Somebody wants to propose an alternative number of points for a proposal forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's been a huge amount of publicity about this.
12.
12. It's
I
illegal.
propose 12.
I second it.
12, I go with that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
Yep,
Yes.
agreed, definitely.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Are members happy with putting vaping in the vehicle? There's no smoking in the vehicle,
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
in the workplace.
Oh,
There's nothing, no mention of
you wouldn't be
vaping.
able to see if somebody was vapouring in it.
Through you, Chair, in a lot of places now, there's no vaping or smoking in
Yeah.
areas of
Yes.
vehicles, so
Yeah.
there's no problem. No
I wondered what it was at first.
Hot air.
If I put electronic cigarettes as well on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, uninitiated.
And you're already happy with me to put the line behind the
Are there any other points that people would like to raise? No? Thank you very much. So the recommendation is that it is recommended that the Licensing and Regulatory Committee approve the draft changes to the taxi and private hire taxi policy for public consultation over a 6-week period to include the issues that we've raised.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much indeed for that. If we move on to agenda item number 7, the minutes of the meeting of the Licensing General Purposes Subcommittee, pages 87 to 90, to receive those minutes of the meeting that was held on the 19th of June. Is that agreed? Thank you. And the minutes of the Licensing Act 2003 subcommittees to receive the minutes of the meeting of Committee C held on the 21st of August. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Don't think there's any need to exclude the press and the public.
Sorry, they're in committee room 2 at the moment. I think
Those are the ones we haven't seen at all.
Are they on the table with the side?
We've been tabled in that.
Might be good if we had a copy.
No, I'm happy.
Just to follow and they didn't.
Yeah, over.
Did you bring them in? Is it all on the table?
Oh no, the ones that I've left on spares and, yeah. Good. I'll make sure that you get a copy. I'll forward them on to you.
Thank you.
There's a mix of something like that. See?
Just to follow and they didn't. That's all.
The last one it said to follow, didn't it?
Yes, yes, I see.
Nobody else says.
Oh, are they there?
Sorry.
Here, this side. For those that haven't got them.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. And for your attention. Closes the meeting.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, no,
Right. That's it then.
Yes, lovely. Have a good day.
But my daughter got in on her computer.
Forward.
What was the date?